I guess
Hmm.
probably a good place to start in talking about that is your grandfather, uh, Doc Cheatham. Is
Yeah.
would you say he was your first influence on the trumpet, or like how early were you hearing him and wanting to and being influenced by him, and did you want to follow a similar path to him?
I mean, naturally, he's obviously one of the first and most listened to trumpet players in my household and in my own sphere. And I've seen him perform live as this old man. But when you're 9, 10, 11 years old, you don't realize a 90-year-old man playing the trumpet is a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Especially the way he played it. So it wasn't until later, especially when I really got into the trumpet, that I realized, oh wow, it's like he's he's 90. This is crazy. Um, but even just the way his career and his sound, how unique it was, and how very like Gabriel heavenly his sound was. But he actually wasn't my first biggest influence. My first biggest influence, who I couldn't stop listening to when I was 11, 12 years old, was Dizzy Gillespie and Roy Eldridge. Those were my two favorites as a young child. And
And
then onward into people like Wynton Marsalis and Roy Hargrove, and then Donald Byrd and Marcus Belgrave, and then back to Doc Cheatham.
so, you said like around 11 or 12 you were getting into Dizzy. Is that about when you started playing trumpet, or
Yes, it is. Yeah.
okay? Now, hearing Dizzy at such a young age, and all the other greats you started to delve into, did that like ignite a passion early on in your trumpet playing? Because for me, I was a trombone player for years with no drive. I didn't really care about the instrument, and a few years after I started playing trombone, I started playing bass, and then I really started to connect with music later. But was it more of like a instant connection for you when you started playing trumpet?
It was instant. I loved music. I loved making sound. I use trumpet to learn any other instrument that I do know. Um, you know, uh, yeah, I was just connected to it. I was always into music and film music and things like that. Um, I was a kid who would take the hour long bath and like sing a whole soundtrack the whole time. So what in my head was orchestrations. I understand that now. I was hearing orchestrations. I was hearing the percussion section. I was hearing the woodwinds. I was hearing the strings. I was hearing the brass. Even though I'm just a little kid singing, that's what I was hearing in my head.
So
So
what's like an
I've always had a thing for music. I just didn't really tap into understanding until I started playing the trumpet.
okay. So as far as film scores go, what's a movie that you really connect with that you think has like had the biggest influence on you from a film score point of view?
Oh man, there's so many: Star Wars,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, um, um, Malcolm X, which Terrence Blanchard did the soundtrack to. Uh, I mean, The Fifth Element by Luc Besson, Leon the Professional. Uh, that's just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I've never thought about making a. I mean, even the original Batman's,
Okay. Yeah. I
which
mean,
I don't know who did. I assume Hans Zimmer, but maybe he did the newer ones. But he's great too. I mean, it's really a rich world of soundtracks out there. I mean, movies would not. They're not popping without it.
oh, of course. I mean, it's an inseparable part of how you digest it. I feel like that can really make a movie. I mean, even an average movie with a great soundtrack, I feel like it's still very memorable in a way that it couldn't be without it. Is that something you see yourself doing eventually, getting into film scores, or have you gotten a chance to do that already?
I've gotten light chances to do it in ways, but I feel like my music is that's the next step for it, really, because that's what I'm doing. I'm writing soundtracks. Like, again, this is a soundtrack album. Um,
Yeah.
had I had 4 times the amount of money and it wasn't COVID or a lockdown, I would have made a short film or a 45-minute film that just let the music narrate.
Now, um, aside from the influences that you had in movie music, um, was there anything early on that you wouldn't really associate with trumpet or with improvised music or things that you've kind of be like more known for? Is there a influence that you had early on that's almost like a guilty pleasure or something that is very like out of your regular diet of music?
I mean, that's a good question. Uh, I wouldn't really, to be honest, I wouldn't know how to identify it.
Well, okay, here's a
So,
good example. For me, my
okay.
earliest musical memory is a compilation CD called Now That's What I Call Music Volume 4. And I don't like that music that much now, but when I was like 5 years old, for some reason I just latched onto it. And, as much as I don't identify with it as much now, it kind of had just like an inseparable influence on me early on.
Right, I
Uh,
got you. I mean, I can't say that I don't. I mean, I still connect to the things I heard when I was 5 years old. I remember one of my earliest memories being 3 or 4 years old and demanding that we listen to Sade,
okay.
and I would call her Sadie. And I would stand up in the middle of the car, and I wouldn't sit down until you did play Sade. Um, so that's one of my earliest influences. Whereas now, sometimes I listen to stuff, I'm like, dang, it's hella smooth jazzy, but I love it. And that was one of my earliest influences. So was damn, I just forgot. No, I mean, so was Wyclef. Like Wyclef presents the Carnival, Volume One. That album and those skits, I must have been like 12 years old, 11 years old. I remember hearing Mint Condition when I was a kid, and groups like Jodeci and 112, and I remember Janet Jackson. I remember Michael Jackson's History, um, Off the Wall, which was made before me. But I remember
Yeah.
the History album coming out and the Dangerous album coming out. Um, yeah, I mean, I remember Gloria Estefan's Mi Tierra album having a huge influence on me. Um, it really wasn't about genre ever.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
just, genre was just used to help me buy albums in a CD store when I would go there with my allowance money every week and blow it all on CDs.